So anyway, Fallout 4, yeah, it was announced 6 months ago, and which is really unusual because I'm used to games being announced 2 years in advance and then feeding my audience drips and drabs of information. But here it is, it's finally Fallout 4, and everyone's been in the wasteland for a good week at least. And well, you've pretty much been experiencing the wasteland, haven't you, Alessandro?
Yeah, I've been playing Fallout 4 as much as I can during this week. I haven't got as much time as I'd like to get into it, but I've got through a fairly decent chunk, around like 10 or so hours of the game. So, I mean, there's a lot the game still has to offer, but so far, I'm really enjoying what I've been playing after I got through the initial hurdle of the really, really slow start.
Yeah, you're on PC, so let's actually talk about what works, what doesn't work in this particular instance of Fallout 4. I think we've got to address the massive glitch-ridden elephant in the room and talk about the engine, because, it just wouldn't be a Bethesda game if there weren't some bugs. Some people, they've been saying they've had game-breaking issues. Others, they say there's nothing really to worry about, say, for an instance where you walk into a village and no one has any faces. I don't know if you've had any trouble with the game engine so far?
So I think this is something that's really important that people need to understand. So when things like this start happening, people are like, oh, there should just be a new engine. Now, new engines don't immediately solve bugs. They probably introduce more than they solve. If you want a clear example of that, look at Assassin's Creed with AC Unity, and now the difference between AC Unity and Syndicate. So Bethesda probably needs a new engine, but what they've done with Fallout 4 is quite admirable, and in making a game that looks really good on an engine that is so old. So that does mean that Bethesda bugs are still in there. I haven't experienced any ones that are particularly game-breaking in a sense. The only really annoying thing that I found, especially on the PC version, so the console versions have frame rate issues, the PC version has equally bad frame rate issues. From what I've read, is a problem with the CPU. The game's really CPU reliant, and so in certain sections the thing can dive from 60 frames per second down to like 20 or 30. Yesterday when I was playing, that happened a lot when I just aimed down the scope of my sniper, and the frame rate just halved. So that's a weird problem, and it happens in the most random places that you wouldn't expect it to happen. So it seems that there's just a few little glitches that Bethesda need to address there. But as far as game-breaking things go, there hasn't been anything yet. And there hasn't actually even been really anything immersion-breaking, like you said, missing faces and characters hovering in the air, although that does exist. I mean, there's enough evidence on the internet to show that does exist. But nothing odd for a Bethesda game, and nothing too problematic in the sense of I can carry on playing still and I'm not, hindered in that regard.
I kind of like bugs. I kind of like the fact that it makes the game infinitely more interesting when you actually go on the hunt for those glitches and those bad tweaks.
Which brings me to the next topic, exploration.
I mean, Bethesda games, massive open worlds, back from the 2D days all the way through to Skyrim and now Fallout 4. So what's the wasteland like in this version of Fallout for you?
So it's big. It's Fallout 4 is really, really big. It's kind of weird because the first thing I did when I started the game was open up my map and kind of, just scroll around to kind of get a sense of how big it was. And looking at the waypoints and then comparing that to the scale of the map, I thought, well, this isn't actually that big. Until I started walking between settlements that on the map looked right on top of each other, and in-game actually took like a minute or two to walk between. So the map is immensely massive, and it's incredibly detailed. There's settlements that kind of act as little waypoints close to each other. So you'll walk from a main settlement like Sanctuary, where you end up establishing one of your first bases, and like a few meters from there is your garage where you get to edit your power armor, and then a few meters from there is like a trailer park where there's raiders or something like that. So there's always stuff to do when you're walking around, and it always feels really believable in a sense. The cities in general, like Lexington and Sanctuary and Diamond City, they all feel really believable and like places that people would have lived in before this post-apocalyptic wasteland. And they provide a lot of cool sections to just explore. Like you can explore old houses and find, signs of life there that were there 200 years ago, or old power factories, and you see how industrial lines are just like derelict now and rusted, and it's really, really good. Bethesda has always kept a good attention to detail when it comes to creating their worlds, and Fallout 4 is packed with stuff to do. It's packed with immersion, and it looks way better than Fallout has ever looked.
One thing that looks really divisive to me, and I think Jeff will back us up on this, he's been playing it on PS4, and he loves to explore, but he just cannot give an absolute rat's bottom about the settlement crafting, where you create your own settlement to give you, little buffs and tweaks here and there. But some people like it, some people hate it. How do you feel about settlement crafting so far?
Yeah, I tend to agree with Jeff in a way there, because it's kind of there, and the first few missions in the game, or optional missions, kind of teach you the basic mechanics of building a base. But it's far too weird for me to actually become engrossed into. So everything you build needs resources, and those resources come from junk that you collect around the wasteland, which is cool, because now junk actually has a function aside from, collecting a ton, going into a city and just selling everything off for caps. So there's this mechanic where you can say, okay, I want to build this machine gun turret, and I don't have a particular resource. I can mark that resource, and when I'm out in the wasteland, anything that contains that resource, kind of pings up when I scroll over it, so I know that I should pick that up. But it's like everything requires a lot of resources, and very diverse resources. So a lot of the time I'd get back to Sanctuary and I'd be like, okay, I want to, grow some crops because that's my next mission in this tutorial. And I was like 1 tomato short. Now I needed to go all the way to another farm, pick up one, come all the way back, plant it, and then just get a new mission. It's really weird. And I think in general, the base building stuff is going to be for people who really enjoy that style of gameplay. But one thing that I really like is that it's not very central to what I need to do. I can play Fallout 4 without having to worry about my settlements. Aside from when they get attacked by raiders, then I kind of need to go and get them away. But it's not extremely central to the gameplay, and that's good because it brings down the pace to a crawl. And I don't find it engaging at all. A lot of people say the opposite, but yeah, I'm with Jeff on that one.
So let me paint you a picture. You're out in the wasteland, you're scavenging, you've got dog meat by your side, and then all of a sudden you spot it. Super mutants on the horizon, coming at you, and you decide, screw it, I've got laser guns, let's open fire, let's kill the buggers. Shit's about to fly. And that's something that I've seen in Fallout 4 that I like, is that the gunplay seems so much better. I mean, you don't have to rely on the VATS system the whole time. And from what I've heard is that there's a bit of Destiny influence in this gunplay. And that just sounds sexy to me. Because, I mean, you're shooting, but you've also got to watch your ammo count. So that's kind of intriguing from what I've seen when it comes to action in Fallout 4.
Yeah, so Bethesda took a huge influence from Destiny to come and try and improve their gunplay, because Fallout 3's gunplay wasn't great. That's why VATS became so popular.
God, no.
Because VATS was the way to play Fallout 3. It kind of improved in New Vegas because you could actually aim down the sights, but it still wasn't there. Fallout 4's gunplay to me is far more engaging than VATS ever is. And I end up using it, just in real time a lot more than I do kind of jumping into VATS and hoping for the best. VATS is still a very central part of Fallout's combat, because even though it's a shooter, you're not hitting shots, 100% of the time just because you're aiming at your target. It is an RPG. Your shooting is affected by stats and, everything like that. So VATS is still very central in kind of bridging the gap between first-person shooting and RPG gameplay. But it's cool that if I don't want to use VATS, I can still, off rad roaches and mutated rats and whatever without issue. The gunplay is way better. It feels good, but it's still got that very Fallout-esque feeling to it, in the sense that ammo is very scarce, and if you just start firing off guns like you're playing Destiny, you're going to find yourself in a heap of trouble really soon, especially early in the game, which is tough as nails.
Lovely. Now, there's one thing I've always appreciated about Fallout games, is that the story has been completely rubbish, but rubbish in the best sort of way when it comes to dealing with the apocalypse and the after effects. And you can have a rubbish story, but you need great characters, and that's something you've seen in plenty of Fallout games. And I've kind of fallen in love with the brief snippets I've seen of Mr. Codsworth, that floating robot butler thing in the game. But you got to tell me, are there any other great characters in Fallout 4?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm only 10 hours in, so the story as a whole hasn't really kicked in yet. But at the same time, I'm also doing stuff all around, so I'm not really focusing on the main story. But the characters I've met, like Preston, he's the leader of this clan called the Minutemen, and you kind of like help him reestablish the Minutemen to kind of help protect the Commonwealth where you're kind of residing. And he's really cool, and the characters around him are kind of okay. And then you have the Brotherhood of Steel, who I just ran into last night, and you have Paladin Davis, I think his name is.
So Paladin Dancer.
Yeah, Paladin Dance. And he's cool. Like, he's, to me, in the past Fallout games, the Brotherhood of Steel have always had this certain, feeling to them, and he kind of embodies that feeling. So I kind of relate with him, and I like engaging on going on missions with him because of his talking in between. So the characters are cool. I think they could be better. I think dialogue could be a lot better as well. Dialogue feels like really stiff, kind of detracts from the main story. But otherwise, it's not bad. I like where these little stories go, and I like building these relationships with these different clans and seeing how those kind of branch out. But as for the main story, there's no real hook yet, but I've heard that once you get to Diamond City, that really kicks in, and I haven't yet, so it makes sense.
Bonus round, question number 6. That character creation suite looks absolutely fantastic. I've seen John Cena.
And his name is John Cena!
I've seen Beavis and Butthead. I've seen Obama. Thanks, Obama, by the way. I've seen so many great mashups. What kind of a character have you created? Because it looks like such a great suite of tools to use.
It's a huge suite of tools, and I kind of feel bad because I'm not one of those people that kind of obsesses over their characters, so I don't spend hours and hours, altering jawlines and cheekbones and stuff like that. But if you're that type of person, Fallout 4's got a suite that's probably the most powerful one out there. I mean, like you said, you've seen people like John Cena.
And his name is John Cena!
Or Nigel Thornberry or something like that. So it's fantastic. My character in general, I changed a few things because if you don't want to get into the nitty gritty of editing, there's always presets you can choose. So you can choose like different preset eyes and mouth and stuff and mess with combinations in that regard. So I basically created a character that ended up looking quite a bit like me and very hipsterish in the post-apocalyptic wasteland. So he's killing mutants and taking names with a pair of thick-rimmed black glasses, which is pretty rad.
If you like what you see, please don't forget to subscribe. Or the cat gets it.